Welcome to the Strategic Management Accounting course, where we teach the value-adding steps and processes necessary to execute strategy. Whether you are just starting up or looking to grow your business, then this course is for you. With your host, Dr. Neil O'Connor.
As we ended up last time, I just want to revisit this whole idea, because the textbook is potentially confusing when it comes to talking about fixed rates, variable rates, in terms of allocation of service department costs. Okay, it's very confusing. And I guess what the book is trying to show is that when we get to 3 and 4, this is where we need to pay attention to why are we using budgeted rates, why are we using actual rates. Okay. If our reason for cost allocation was just 1 and 2, then I think we could get away with just, that's our total capacity, that's divided by our budget capacity. Let's have a fixed budgeted rate, let's have an actual variable rate, and let's sign off on that, and we can all go home and everyone's happy. Okay, and then we achieve 1 and 2. Okay? However, the book gets a little bit more confusing and talking about, but what about using actual and budgeted rates on usable capacity, on the actual used capacity, not the total capacity. Okay? 1 and 2 just kept on talking about this 18,000. This 18,000 hours that kept on being divided into 3 million. Okay? And when you divide 18,000 into 3 million, you've got 250 or something like that. Okay? Someone do the calculation, help me out here. Okay? All right? And no one ever thought of, why don't we just work with the 12,000 and divide that into 3 million? Okay? There's other, all right? We're just working with that. You can see by the calculations that we showed earlier. So previously we divided 3 million by 12,000 hours, and we got $250 per hour. Okay? 3 million by 12,250 per hour. Now, what we're going to do now is show we've got 18,700 hours, and let me go on to where I want to show. Here I wanted to show now. All right, so now I just want to show actual usage. The example of this, and we didn't come to this before. See the first row? That is what was talked about for the most of the chapter, and there's an example in the chapter that actually shows this in the chapter. All right, what that example is showing is the first row is depicted here, 8,000 and 4,000. It's really focusing on the actual usage. And let me draw that. I just want to make this very, very clear. If I mess this up, at least you can scrub this and we can start again another day. But that is basically what we covered so far. Okay? That one division had an actual usage 8,000, the other one 4,000. There's our 12,000 out of the 18. That was all. Okay? All right? There was no mention of 8,000, 7,000, 8,000, 2,000. All right? There was no mention of row 2 or row 3. So if you own your textbook, there's an example where it shows you 3 rows, and it's giving you an example. When it goes to row 2 and row 3, it's just showing a different setting where one department decides, we're just going to use less, or we're going to use much less, and the other department is. So these are 2 and 3 are 2 and 3. There's 2 scenarios where one department used less and then much less. Okay? All right? So the only thing that is any comparable to the past examples is case 1. Okay? 2 and 3, they're new cases. Here, we are interested in comparing how we allocate fixed costs. See, variable costs, variable is variable. You just allocate actual, right? Straightforward. But how we allocate the fixed costs can have implications for how we shine the light. Do we shine the light on the IT department, or do we shine the light onto the user department? What do we mean shining the light? Shining the responsibility light. Okay? See, if we use 18,000 as our basis for allocating the 3 million, we use a budgeted usage and allocation base, right? So we're allocating all of that 3 million, we are shining the light away from the IT department, and we are putting the spotlight on the user departments. See that? The IT department, they don't have any responsibility. Okay? Because all that money they wasted, oh, don't worry, it's all going to be allocated to the user departments, even if they only use 2/3, right? Okay? What a total waste, right? But the light is not on them, all right? So here, the spotlight is on the user departments. IT department, no responsibility at all, okay? No responsibility at all, all right? Okay, so what about actual usage? Here, what are we doing? We're actual usage as allocation base. We are now still shining the light on micro and peripheral division, but now we are allowing some gaming between the two departments. So one division may, if they deliberately decide to use much less hours, they can save more money and play a game against the other division. Oh, the light is not on the IT, the light is on the two user departments still. But one is playing off the other. Okay. All right. Here, the light is on both divisions. Here, the light is on both divisions. However, one division, if they play dirty, it can affect the other division. See, peripheral decide to use much less resources. Guess what? The micro division gets charged even more. See that? Normally they're going to get charged 2 million. Now they get charged 2.4. How come? My 8,000 hours, I've used the same amount. And you charge me more? That's not fair. IT division say, oh, don't look at me. The light is not being shined on me. The light is shined on you two. You figure it out. You see that? See the game being played here between the two? See? 2 to 1, 2 to 1, 2 to 1. Okay? Alright? Everyone's happy. It's capacity planning. Alright? There's no gaming. But there's no light on the IT division. Now we open it up and everyone can fight now. Here. Where one can play off the other. That's if we use actual usage as the allocation base. Oh wow, is that really fair? Maybe it's not fair. We need to think, why on earth would you use that when you get them to fight against each other and play games, right? Well, it provides incentives for the efficient use of services. It provides incentives for each division to think twice. Not just variable costs, we're just talking about fixed costs here. It provides incentives for them to think twice about how they use that fixed cost. Okay? Maybe they don't need to use as much. And then they decide, yeah, if we don't use as much, we don't get charged as much. Oh, that's a great idea. All right? So this is one way of actually providing incentives for efficient use of services. Not just in addition to having a variable rate. Now we go to the final scenario, and guess what? Now we shine the light over to the IT division. Okay? Because if the IT division, if they have messed up by allocating so much, like 18,000 when they should have just purchased 12,000 capacity, all right? That's your problem, because I'm only going to allow you to allocate based on how much is being used. And that, you add it up. 1.28 plus 640. Okay, there's less than 2 million out of that. So there's still over 1 million unallocated. Sorry, Mr. IT department, that is your problem. That goes against your profitability. You see that? So the light is on the IT department. Now it forces the IT department to be responsible. Can you see that? All right, so these are the different scenarios, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so this scenario here, you provide certainty, but the light is on the users. Here, you provide incentives for efficient use of services, that is, but you're still allocating all that 3 million. Okay, the light is off IT. Here, the light is shined onto the IT department. Okay. So what this table is showing, and you've got a similar table in bottom of page 622 on edition 15. I know it's another example, but in part that is what that table is trying to show. It's showing that under these different allocation approaches, you are trying to achieve a particular objective. And if you look in the bubble here, I'm explaining what that objective is here. Certainty and planning, incentives for efficient use of services, and incentives for service division to efficiently plan for capacity. Okay, so I didn't explain this as well before, but I just want to go over that now. All of that is to do with, and all of that is to do with, we're talking about, what's the word I'm trying to write here? Help me. Yes, all right. It's all about the fixed costs that are expended by a service department. Not the variable costs. We're talking about their fixed costs. And that's why in the book it gets very confusing, because then they talk about page 622, 623, do we use budget, do we use actual, and it gets a little bit confusing here. Okay? What is most important is that this game about whether we use budget or actual is very, very pertinent for how we allocate fixed costs, because it shines the light on one side or the other. Okay? All right? Where do we want to shine the light? Now let's use the rate that is relevant for that focus. Right, so that's fixed costs. Remember, that was only 3 million out of that 5.4 million investment that's shown in this example. Okay? And there are 2 slides after that that actually show the calculation, but I think this represents the comparison. This is the controlling capacity. It's explaining how the fixed rate under budget will be so much, but under practical it's much less. So under the practical capacity, 160 per hour, we are shining the light on the IT department. The IT department cannot allocate their 3 million on practical capacity. They messed up. Too bad. Your cost. Don't pass it on to the user departments. Do your budgeting better next time. Okay? That's under practical capacity. All right? So, and then there's 2 slides just to show the calculation. Okay? If we have it under fixed rate at 160 practical capacity, then our allocations are so much to each division, and then there is still 1,080,000 still unallocated, responsible of the IT department. And the final one is the same, and we still, even if we do it fixed and variable dual rate method, we still have unused computer capacity. Again, boom, Mr. IT department, you're still responsible for that. Okay. So that summarises what I wanted to show tonight, and that was the last part about how do we control capacity. And that's why potentially in those 2 pages of the book it is confusing, because I don't think you're mixing up variable costs and fixed costs, and then you've got practical and actual. All right, the best way to understand it is this practical and actual capacity. These strategies for shining the light is most pertaining to the fixed costs. Okay, variable is variable. Okay, variable just goes up and down any time. All right, you can variable costs. If you don't use it, you don't use it. You don't lose it. You with me? You don't expend it if you're not using variable costs. But fixed costs, because they're already expended, then who's responsible? Okay. Do you make the IT department responsible for some part, all of it, or do you push it all over to the user departments? Okay, and that's controlling capacity. And so that finishes what I was talking about today: controlling service, signaling relevant costs, controlling user efficiency, and controlling capacity. Okay. Time is up. I'm excited because this sort of finishes the area of cost control. We actually looked inside the organisation, because next week onwards we start to look at the customer. We start to look at external strategy, which is very, very exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. I'll be bursting with excitement when we come in next week. So looking forward to that. So thank you for tonight. That finishes.